If the United States were to capture alive any of those involved in the 20-hour sustained attack on the American embassy in Afghanistan, exactly how would they be treated? As Commander-in-Chief, President Obama has renounced torture, but the release of former Vice President Dick Cheney's new book has reignited the debate over whether or not so-called enhanced interrogation techniques are effective. Cheney says, absolutely.
It's important for us not to get caught up in the notion that you can only have popular methods of interrogation if you want to run an effective counterterrorism program. Fact is, it worked. We learned valuable information from that process, and we kept the country safe for over 7 years.
Ali Soufan is a former FBI agent who tracked al-Qaeda before and after 9/11 and who accuses the CIA of deliberately withholding key documents that could have led to the thwarting of the 9/11 plot. He recounts these stories and makes his case against the torture of terror suspects in his new book, The Black Banners, The Inside Story of 9/11 and the War Against Al-Qaeda. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you, sir.
Despite the fact that torture is against US and international law, Vice President Cheney obviously continues to support the notion of enhanced interrogation techniques. You interrogated Abu Zubaydah, first high-value detainee following 9/11, and you got information about him concerning Sheikh Mohammed.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually,
did you use enhanced interrogation techniques?
No, sir. No, not at all. The information about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed came as early as April of 2002, a month before enhanced interrogation techniques were even approved or before waterboarding. And the notion that waterboarding gave us the information that led us to Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that led us to identify Khalid Sheikh Mohammed as a mastermind of 9/11 doesn't pass the test of logic. That happened month before, and a lot of the other stuff that has been
illogical
told,
but is it untrue?
It is also untrue. It is also untrue because we knew about Khalid Sheikh Mohammed being the mastermind of 9/11 by Abu Zubaydah almost immediately after his arrest and before even the contractors were on the ground at the undisclosed location.
You were actually in Yemen when 9/11 happened, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what happened when the CIA turned over some material that you'd requested months before.
And you mentioned something that I accuse them in deliberately holding information. I state the facts, and I don't go saying deliberately or not, and have the reader of the book find the answer. What happened?
It's pretty obvious to conclude that from your book.
It is obvious to conclude that there was important information that were withheld from the FBI, especially from the FBI agents and the NCIS agents who were investigating the USS Cole. And that's not only my side of the story, that's the side of the story of the 9/11 Commission. It's actually one of the very first issues that they recognized as part of their findings, that if that information was passed to the FBI on timely basis, 9/11 could have been a different day. So there was information about a meeting that took place in Southeast Asia. We knew about that meeting when we were investigating the USS Cole. We knew about it as early as November of 2000, immediately after the USS Cole investigation. We asked at numerous occasions for information that can lead us to people who were involved in that meeting.
And you didn't get it.
And we got it on September 12 of 2000. And we found out that people we've been looking for overseas for participating in that meeting. And some of the people who were in the meeting, one of them was a suicide bomber on the USS Cole. We found out that they were in the United States, and we found out that they were on Flight 77 that hit the Pentagon.
But you found this out on the 12th. In the book itself, you're also highly critical of the CIA and its liaison or lack of liaison with other agencies. About 2 weeks ago, we had another report saying that there continues to be a problem with information sharing. And yet, given the utter horrific events of 9/11, why does this continue to be a problem?
Well, the institutional bickery in Washington is as old as Washington itself, and there are a lot of men and women in the CIA that put their life on the line every day, and that's why I'm very hesitant in criticizing them. And I came publicly against the prosecution, for example, of CIA officers. However, this institutional bickery sometimes cost lives, and in 9/11 it cost 2,977 lives.
But do you have any potential ways of resolving this breakdown in communication, this, as you put it, fiefdoms that are bickering against one another?
Well, I hope it's getting better. I mean, from what I hear now from colleagues in the intelligence community and the counterterrorism community, there is a lot of things that happens that makes the situation a little bit better. But it will continue to be two different institutions, have two different goals and two different institutional cultures.
I was particularly struck by the final words of your book, and I want to quote. You say, "To ever fully defeat Al-Qaeda, we need to realize that military operations, interrogations and intelligence successes are only half the battle. The other half is in the arena of ideas. We can keep killing and arresting terrorists, but if new ones keep joining, our war will never end." But surely the arena of ideas is impossible to win, because these are individuals whose history, whose continent stems back centuries, and whose opposition to much of what, for example, a country like America represents has been much longer than just the last few years. How do you resolve this battle of ideas?
I think the issue of counter-narrative is an issue that we didn't even touch yet. I think tactically we're good in fighting Al-Qaeda. We know what things we need to monitor, what targets we need to hit, you know, where the money is coming from. We did a phenomenal job in the last 10 years.
Is
in
dead.
In weakening the network of Al-Qaeda, bin Laden's death. But there's a lot of other things that's happening. The ideology that keeps Al-Qaeda, sustain Al-Qaeda, is still there. And there are a lot of efforts around the world in the arena of counter-narrative. You have a program in Saudi Arabia, you have a program in Singapore, in Indonesia, you know, and everyone is developing their own counter-narrative in accordance with their own cultural values and or political situation and economic situation and the environment that they operate in. Unfortunately, on a global level, we were not doing enough to coordinate these efforts in order to counter the narrative, the illogical narrative of Al-Qaeda. And it seems events that's happening around us, and we're not even part of it at sometimes, like the Arab Spring, is doing more damage to Al-Qaeda's ideology and making them more irrelevant.
So it's a matter of weapons, but also words, as you say, that counter-narrative.
It is, and part of the counter-narrative.
Ali Soufan, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir.